All right, there's the recording notification. And I want to thank you all for coming today, and especially to our guest, James Maples. I'm a big fan of James because he's able to speak both professionally and personally to students, but also general audiences interested in sociology and different topics related to attending college. He's associate professor and director of the Division of Regional Economic Assessment and Modeling. And I didn't screw that up. I'll screw everything else up. But James is going to talk to us about his approach to, and it's a do-it-yourself approach to recording video of different types. And so really excited and appreciative to have you, James. Take it away, and I'll monitor chat, and we'll just sort of riff off one another if we can. There, see, I told you I'd screw everything else up. Take it away, James. Thank you.
Well, in true Zoom fashion, my neighbor decided this was the day they needed to cut down the tree in the backyard as well. So if you occasionally hear chainsaws, I promise that's not just happening at my house. That's actually my neighbor. I see a lot of familiar faces. It's really great to meet all of you that I haven't met before, and it's great to see lots of friends. I look forward to a day that we can all be back in person. But in the meantime, I think Zoom is awesome. And I think the digital opportunities that we're offering our students at EKU is a really great thing. I think that the pandemic, I know the statistics are showing that the pandemic has irreparably changed students. It has irreparably changed us. And maybe we won't know for the future how those changes are going to manifest. But one of the things that I have seen is a very clear increase in the interest of students in online learning. And they're also their willingness and comfort in doing online learning. So I guess I want to think about some of those things today. With my YouTube channel, it was something that was born out of the pandemic, but it's become so much more than that. I do use it as part of my lectures for my classes so that that's available to my students. But I've also kind of started to use this as a platform to really try to demystify a lot of this ivory tower that we work in. Random things like what is a W grade? What is a second major? How does, medical withdrawals work? All these things are things that you and I are very familiar with and we're comfortable with, terminology that we use all the time. And it scares the bejesus out of our students. And we don't necessarily always know that. And so I've kind of turned my channel into a way to ameliorate or maybe address some of those fears, but also to give students advice from what I've learned being a professor for 10 years. And more recently, thinking back to my graduate school experiences and sharing things that worked there, that didn't work there, and also talking about my research. And I can't forget, certainly, to show that sociology is a very clear source of jobs. This is a whole bunch of things that has really all kind of come together on one channel. And I think that is partly because when I started this, I had no idea what I was doing. And that's been part of the exploration. And that's a little bit of what I kind of want to think about today as well. Some of the main things that I want to do today are give you the reasons that I got into this so that you can understand my motivations. But then I also want to take the time to break apart all the barriers that you may have in your mind about why you can't do this. I want to say up front, all of you have the tools to do this afternoon. You don't need anything special equipment wise. You don't need any extra training. It's all free. Everything that you need is ready to go. It's really just as simple as firing up your Zoom room and hitting the record button. So I kind of want to talk about some strategies for getting you started while I also kind of dispel some of the things that you're thinking about. And again, at the end of the day, when you're done with this, fire up one of your lectures from a class, record it, and congratulations, you can get your first YouTube video up today. So for those of you who don't know me, there's a couple of useful things that I like to point out. First off, I'm Central Appalachian. I come from East Tennessee, grew up along the North Carolina-Tennessee line. And I bring with me that knowledge that a lot of students are first-gen students, and they're really nervous about all of this. For me as a first-gen student too, college was a big mystery. I ended up starting at a community college the first time. And I actually, by complete coincidence, ended up taking online classes just as online classes were becoming a thing. My community college was one of the early spots in Tennessee to offer online classes. And that's kind of how I started with taking those classes. I was working full time, and this is being a professor is also my second profession. And so those online classes were kind of a critical thing for me to be able to get back into college, then eventually transfer to the University of Tennessee, get my PhD and so forth, which was never my plan, but we'll save that for another Zoom video. That'd actually be a really good one. I'll put that up later today. Anyways, but one of my big things is that as a first gen student, I knew that there was so much stuff that our students just don't know. And maybe it's not just first gens, maybe it's all of them. You know, little things like I accidentally got a W on my transcript as an undergrad, and I was freaked out about it because nobody could tell me what a W grade was, except for this one scary secretary who told me, well, you've pretty much ruined your entire academic career by getting a W. And I'm like, but how? And she's like, I don't know how, but I know it's really, really bad. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a W. It would be like something else. And I'm like, okay, that's great, great logic. I'll carry that with me forever. So I wanted to dispel some of those fears as a professor. And I think as a professor, that's been a big part of my work is making education accessible. In fact, and I saw Kelly in here somewhere, I want to make education 100% free. I want to make education available to all people all the time so that that information is there. And I think this YouTube opportunity has been a big part of that for me to make education available to everyone. Now, when the pandemic first hit, you remember that, right? That was like 47 years ago. When the pandemic first hit, I was the program coordinator for sociology. And I have a lot of faculty who were later in their careers, and then two faculty who were very early in their careers, and I was one of those two. And we basically were kind of told overnight, as many of you remember, okay, we got to go online. Spring break is over. We got to, figure out what we're going to do to get through the rest of the semester. And a lot of my faculty are like, okay, James, how do I go online? What do I do for this go online? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Let's find out. I ended up as program coordinator needing to develop some tools for our faculty very quickly to get online. And we used Blackboard for that. And I'm here to say that was a really terrible experience. The things with Blackboard, and I understand from Chris that this isn't even available anymore, maybe because it was so bad, but basically you could record your lectures, but then like you couldn't edit them, you couldn't really control anything about them. If the sound didn't work, like it glitched out on mine all the time, just the recording was useless and you just wasted 45 minutes of your time recording a lecture. And you also couldn't like do anything with them. You couldn't easily share them. They just kind of appeared when they were ready in the system. So for me, it was a real frustration. And for my faculty, it was a real frustration. And I kind of decided early on that we needed to find an alternative to that. Now, around the same time, I had a presentation that was canceled because of the pandemic. It was scheduled to be in person. And one of the people involved said, well, let's just record the lecture and like put it on YouTube and then they can share the link. And I'm like, is that putting material online? Can you tell me more? Because I didn't really think about YouTube as being this sort of hosting platform. And I came to learn that this YouTube that I had been using as a user and watching videos all this time was just this extraordinary opportunity to host videos, to manage them, to get statistics about what was happening with them and more. In fact, I want to share that screen briefly just so you can see it. Give me just a second here. Go through the 50 screens that I have up apparently. Let's see. We will just, oh boy, where is it? Oh, right there in front of me. I don't have my reading glasses on because they glare in the windows. If you're looking at my calendar, hold on. Can you see the YouTube screen now? Or are you still looking at my calendar? Good to go. Okay, awesome. So this is, for those of you who maybe haven't seen the video development side of YouTube, this is kind of what it looks like. You're able to go through and post all of your videos. In fact, you can see all the videos that I've posted. There's a lot of them. You can set the ones that they're visible to everyone. For example, I've got my video about how the Daniel Boone National Forest actually got its name from a prince named Cumberland. It's kind of a cool video if you want to watch. But then I've got a bunch of other ones that are unlisted, ones that I've sent out to people, like my orientation lectures. I keep those unlisted because they're only applicable to a small group. So you can kind of choose what you do and just set up your videos the way you want. In fact, I've even got some that are unlisted for the moment that won't come out until later in the year. You can also schedule them. For example, I've got a new one scheduled to pop up tomorrow. So it's really great because you can see all of your videos. You can organize them into playlists for your classes, for your students. I've got all sorts of different playlists happening. Got one on sociology jobs, one on publishing undergraduate papers, and so forth. But the thing that I love as a quantoid and a data person is you can also see how people are using them. So for example, you can see about how many views that you're getting in a 48-hour period. You can see some of the different videos that they're viewing, how frequent. In fact, you'll hear me reference this video a lot later on, but it's my best viewed video. It has something like 5,600 views, which is nothing in the world of YouTube, but it's everything to a poor Central Appalachian kid like me. Similarly too, I can go through and try to understand, what makes them click on a video. So for example, we talk about the click-through rate in YouTube. That's how often when you're scrolling through YouTube, you choose to click on a video. And I can actually see that my different videos have different watch lengths on averages. You can even see, the different patterns of how they watch them. There is so much stuff in here that we could talk forever. You can even see where the videos are coming from when they click on them. It's just absolutely amazing. I could talk about that all day because there's so much stuff there. But it's an exciting way because you can do all that, or you can do it the easy way and you just hit upload and you have your video up and it's done. So you can choose to the degree that you want to get super involved with that kind of stuff or not. Going into starting to work on YouTube videos and not being a very technology friendly person, I know how to wire a VHS recorder really well, but that's kind of where my technology knowledge stops, which VHSs are coming back, by the way. So if you got one in your basement, they're worth a lot of money at the pawn shop now. Being a person, though, that wasn't very tech friendly, I do want to talk a little bit about reducing this idea that there are barriers to doing this. First off, one of the big things that I had coming into this was that somehow I needed to be this amazing technological person who knew how to do fancy stuff. Show of hands, how many of you have seen Stranger Things in the last couple of years? The key thing with Stranger Things is what? Throwback media, right? They're trying everything they can to make it look like it's the 1980s. And it's remembering the 1980s, it's pretty successful, right? That's kind of a thing now. Our students don't really care if things are flashy and cool and awesome looking. They will gladly take content over flash. It does not have to look amazing. They're far more interested in if the information that you're giving them is good. As such, I point out that my absolute worst looking video is actually my most popular one. It's that withdraw video on, has a W ruined my life, which pop quiz, it has not. But it looks horrible. I had a sunburn when I recorded it. The lights made it look even worse. So I kind of have this weird pinkish glow. My shirt looked weird. My green screen backdrop that I've long since abandoned was looking weird. I mean, everything about that video is just hideous. And it gets 100 views every day from around the world. And more comments than any other video. Folks are like, this was helpful. Thank you so much for telling me this and so forth. So dispel the idea that you need to be technologically savvy to do this. All you need to do is basically have these basic stuff that's available right now on your EKU computer. We'll get into that in a moment. One of the other big things that I had a question about was what kind of software that I needed to be able to kind of get into this, because I'm thinking, YouTube is probably like I get a membership with YouTube, which I already had that set up, which was easy. But I thought maybe like I need to buy new software, or like, the university probably has something really expensive that I have to do with my computer. And I'm here to tell you, first off, you don't need to buy any software to do everything that I do. First off, YouTube is free. You can get YouTube Premium if you want to get rid of ads. I choose not to because I just skip over them. You can also use browsers to get rid of that, but that's another day. What is far better is the fact that Zoom can actually record all this stuff for you. You don't have to interface microphones. You don't have to interface cameras. You don't have to do anything fancy. You don't need any software. You just go into a Zoom room, set it up by yourself. And if you're the only person in the room, you'll be able to look at the bottom in all of the editions, paid, unpaid, doesn't matter of Zoom. And there's a record option that's available to everyone. Now, I'm lucky enough that I have a paid version just because of being the program coordinator previously. So let me know if you don't see that on yours in the future. You can reach out to me, but Zoom will let you record right there in your classroom. And so you just give your presentation that you would want to give, you create your video, and then at the end, when you exit, it'll actually give you the video. And all you got to do is upload that to YouTube and you're done. It's that simple. It is that simple. There's no cameras, there's no audio stuff because it's everything that's right there on your computer. Now, if you choose to do more editing, you can. With editing, there's lots of free software out there. I like to use free software called Shotcut, which is a really common one used by folks on YouTube. If you have a Mac, you already have iMovie on your computer, most likely. But throughout all of this, there's tons of free software that you can use to edit your video. And you can also do minimal editing even in YouTube. I will say it's kind of difficult to do editing inside of the YouTube application. So instead, I just use Shotcut. It's simple, it's easy, it's nothing fancy. And on top of that, you don't have to do any editing. You can just do it as one big take and you upload it. And if you don't feel like using Zoom, that's okay. Show of hands, how many of you have a cell phone? Oh, that's right, all of us. You can actually record stuff on your phone. You can get the YouTube app, you upload the video from there, and your students will be perfectly fine with that. In fact, I don't know if you've heard of this revolutionary thing called TikTok. I think it's like the new CD player. I'm not really sure. But you know, it's harvesting all their data, but it's also got a very lo-fi look to it. It looks very 1980 Stranger Things, right? And you can just record on your cell phone and you just upload to YouTube there. So I want to first off get rid of the idea that you need fancy software. The next thing too that I want to throw out is that you need fancy hardware. Now, first off, I am going to point out I'm not using the camera that is on your EKU laptop. I absolutely have one that's a little bit better. It's a Logitech Brio. It's like $100, but I recorded plenty of stuff using the camera that is built into your EKU laptops. And some of these laptops apparently have slightly better cameras than others. I think the Macs may have better yeah, I'm getting some nods, have better cameras than the PCs. So for those of you using Macs, you'll be fine. I'm also actually not using the standard microphone, but again, I could. Now, as a musician, I had a better microphone. I'm like, well, I'll just use that and incorporate that into Zoom, but you don't have to. You don't need any of this fancy stuff. Same thing goes for lighting. In fact, when I first started shooting on YouTube, you can look, the lighting was horrible because I was getting, first off, I have a very dark house. I'm totally facing the wrong way for the sun at all times of day. It's just this weird phenomenon in Berea. But I use lamps. I just get them around me to create extra light. I get some windows open. You can get enough lighting to record videos without any problem. And on top of that too, laptop cameras are designed to deal with low light situations. So you don't need fancy technology. You don't need new software. You don't need to buy anything. You just need to start. In fact, one of the biggest things that we talk about in sort of YouTube and creating videos is you just need to get some content up. In fact, content is what we'll call any video that you create on YouTube and put up there. It's just you have to get content up. And then you start with that first video and then you move from there. Now, I'll talk a moment about that a little bit more in a moment, but I do want to talk about some of the selfish benefits that I have gotten out of this before I also think about my students. Personally, for me, this has become a really great exercise in feeling like I can make a difference. I don't know how many of you feel this way, but sometimes I know as a EKU employee, I feel like my functionality and use kind of hits a wall at some point, and there's only so many things I can do in terms of helping students. So by creating this YouTube channel, it's put me in a situation that I can help students that aren't in my classes. I encourage my other faculty to share my videos, and I encourage you as well. If there's videos that are up there that you would like to share, please do. I've got videos on advising. I've got videos on adding majors, minors, second majors, the withdrawal videos, medical withdrawals, all sorts of stuff available to all majors, applicable to all majors. But it makes me feel like I'm helping other people. And as a first-gen student, that makes me feel like I'm making a difference in ways that sometimes I can't as a professor. I'm also enjoying too that my classes are a very small percentage of my views. It's probably less than 5%. You know, I've got a couple of classes, you know, maybe 100 students per semester that are watching videos, but by and far, I'm getting more watches that aren't relevant to my classes. And you can kind of sort those out because any link that's coming in from a Blackboard, I know that it's coming in from my classes. Um, and people are watching from around the world. I'm really big in the Philippines and India right now, which I think is kind of cool. Getting lots of viewers from there, and I'm getting thanks from these people that I'll never get to meet in person, but I'm getting to know their problems. And the cool thing is that their problems are the same student problems that we see around the world. Trying to understand all this lingo that faculty are using. I'm also appreciating too that my knowledge is going beyond the holler, as we like to say back home. I like that I'm able to get information that I might not be able to share with a wide audience out there so that everyone can use it. I think a big part of that is, again, me thinking education should be free, accessible to everyone at all times. The information should be there if we want it. Um, I think selfishly, this has also made me a better thinker about my work and also a better self-promoter. I put up a lot of videos of my research, which I have found 3 people may read the research article, but I can get 600 people to watch a video about the research article that's like 15 minutes. And I actually find that even in the last year, I'm getting more feedback about my research. I'm getting more citations overall, and people are watching those videos. And nobody's watching those from Blackboard. So I know all of those views are from outside of the university. Now, from a selfish perspective, that's these things. But more importantly, is what I'm doing for my students. First off, as a first-gen student who lived in an area with really bad internet that made that dial-up sound, and if someone called, I would get kicked out of my online class. Yeah, this ability to watch lecture videos on their phones is life-changing for students. They have a 15-minute lunch break. Great. I'm going to go sit in the bathroom with my headphones and I'm going to watch Dr. Maples' lecture that is 13 minutes, and that's not an accident. It's 13 minutes, and then that'll give me plenty of time too that I can log into Blackboard and maybe take that quick lecture quiz, and then I'll get back to work. Students are able to access this from anywhere around the world, and I think that's really, really critical. They're not dependent on using a PC or a computer. They can use their phones. I also think that it's valuable that students can see the big picture. They can see all of my lectures for their class. So in my intro sociology class, I think there's maybe something like 40 videos in that file or playlist rather, and they can go through and see everything that we're going to talk about. And, if they have an interest in something, they can skip ahead and watch that video. Or maybe if they didn't understand something, they can go back in time and watch a video again. Likewise, if they're sick and they're going to miss a lecture, that's fine. It's no problem. The video is up there. You can watch it 30 times if you want. In fact, you can even see in YouTube as users will go back and scrub to a particular topic. It's where you grab the cursor and you move it back to watch a part of a video that, like, there was a really great joke and you wanted to watch it again. That's what my wife does. It's like, oh, we got to watch that joke again. So she'll go back. But you can see where students do that in YouTube as well. And it'll give you information about maybe terms that they're having trouble with. In fact, I'll even send out emails from my online classes weekly by watching, what terms seem to be popping up a lot and what they're watching over and over to understand. And I just try and hit on those topics again. These are just some of the things that make this a really great situation for our students. You don't need fancy software. You don't need fancy hardware. You don't need to make purchases. You can do this afternoon 100% for free based on what you have right now. There are some things that I want to think about. And then I also want to open the floor for a conversation. I want to have more time for conversation rather than less time on this one because there might be a lot of conversation points from different angles that I think would be better than just me talking a lot. But there are some things that I want to talk about. The first one is I want you to rethink your structure for how you do lectures. If you're sharing content from a lecture, the tendency is to put up these 50-minute videos. And truth be told, with YouTube, you're better served to break that up into a couple of 15 or even 10-minute videos. And each of those smaller videos cover very specific topics. So I'll give you a great example. I could sit down in a room and talk for 6 hours on the idea of culture. And I could do 6 hours worth of video, and that would be fine. But a student is far more interested and far more apt to watch a whole bunch of shorter 10-minute videos that are on a specific idea. So for example, I'll have a video that talks about the difference between material and non-material culture. I can do that in 15 minutes in detail and cover most of the stuff that they need. So there's a great 15-minute lecture on that. Likewise, maybe I want to talk about cultural universals for 15 minutes, and maybe that one's more like a 10-minute video. So what you can do is build your class in sort of pieces if you're building a class. Now, if you're like me and you like to just create content that's informational, it can be any length, but again, students are far more apt to watch something that's on the 10 to 15-minute range as opposed to something that's on the 60-minute range. I also want you to spend some time thinking about how you present ideas to our students. One of the things that really seems helpful to them is to first off share our experiences. Remember that the same fears that you had as a college student are quite often still very relevant today. You experience things as an undergraduate and as a graduate, and these are the things that our students are often thinking about. It may have a different form today. It may be exactly the same. Chris and I have been talking about grad school lately, and I recently put up a video, 6 things that I did horribly in graduate school. There was actually more than 6 things. I just pretended like there was just 6 things. There was actually 47 things. I have 49. I'm not going to talk about most of those because they were really bad. But like I picked 6 things that like I just did really badly in graduate school. And I guarantee you could think of 6 things that you've done badly in school as well. And I shared that with students, and it's getting very popular. Right now, it's trending as like my second most popular new video. So think about these experiences that you've had and share them. And likewise, when you're sharing your lectures, take the time to really engage that material, think about the terminology, share those terms, give these great examples, because it translates so well over YouTube and it creates a very personable experience. One of the things that we have been perhaps fooling ourselves about is that YouTube or online lectures are somehow impersonal. It is if it's a Zoom class, kind of like we are right now, where there's a bunch of cameras off and like we can't be face to face. Yeah, that feels impersonal. But if it's you on the screen talking to them, it feels like a one-on-one class. So it feels like a very personal experience to our students. And what will make it even more personal if you don't like Zoom is to record those lectures like that, because there's nothing more personal than like recording something from your camera while you're holding it, even if it's like a 3-minute video, because holding your camera like that would be really exhausting. But those feel very, very personal. So go for it, make these very personal videos that you can work with your students and just make for like these really great experiences that can change our students' lives. So I've gone through a couple of things. I have dispelled the big barriers. The barriers that are left are all going to be about you. I kind of want to give you a step-by-step procedure though for what you can do to start this today. The first one is sign up for a free YouTube account. You probably already have one, but if you don't, you can get in there and do that. And you want to get access to YouTube Studio so that you can upload videos. And once you do that, it's crazy. In fact, I'll share my screen again and I'll show you exactly where we go to upload a video here. Let's see. So I'm in YouTube Studio, which you would sign into. And I got to move this over because I can't see where that is over. Got right up here. If you can see my corner in the upper right corner, all I got to do is click on create and upload a video. Now the uploading the video part, we do have to do that. Go into Zoom, turn on your mic, turn on your camera, grab a PowerPoint from any of the classes you've been teaching, create a PowerPoint at lunch today and just record it. Keep it short and sweet. 5, 10, 15 minutes, don't do something that's super long. And if there's mistakes or you say the wrong words, just fix it and go on. Don't worry about editing it, just create it and then get it up this afternoon. When you're uploading it, you're going to see that there's so many more options, the things you can do in YouTube, but don't worry about those for now. Just get it up and get it out there. Create your channel. You'll get some views, let your colleagues know, let your students know, and they'll start watching and sharing. And then what's going to happen after you've got that first lecture up is now you begin the continual improvement process. Every time you upload another video, fix a small thing. Figure out how to edit that video, or maybe have a little developed storyline going into your video ahead of time so that you feel like you have, a clearer lecture plan. It keeps you from rambling. Or maybe learn to do the lighting a little better. Maybe learn to do title cards, because title cards are a thing on YouTube, but just start. the biggest barrier to having a YouTube channel that is functional and not successful in the YouTube world, because I've got 713 subscribers, which is amazing to me. People have like 10 billion subscribers or whatever. I can't even fathom that. But I'm changing 713 lives is the way that I see it, and probably many more people who aren't subscribed. But nonetheless, it's just the biggest barrier to it is just starting. Throw out the fears, put something up. And I'm here to tell you, it's going to be bad, and that's okay. Then again, it might be good. You might just really have a knack for this and quit your job at EKU and go viral and become, the next, famous people that make billions off YouTube. That's not going to be me, but, your experience may vary. But just start. I think that's the biggest thing. I want to kind of close with the idea that this is accessible, this is easy, and it makes a difference to our students. YouTube can be one of the most personal experiences for them in the learning opportunity. Especially if you talk with them in the comments and you respond to them, our students are perfectly at ease with that. I understand that there are some classes that teaching in person is required and important. I get that. I'm not in one of those fields. Everything that I do can be done online. In fact, my teaching evaluations have actually increased since I started teaching online, which I don't know, like maybe I smell or something like that. I'm not really sure, but I'm happy that my students feel like they're learning more. I just encourage you to just start. It's such a great experience. And, even if you don't start putting stuff up every week, like I try to, you can still get lots of people learning cool ideas from your channel by just getting things up when you can. So what I kind of want to do is transfer this over to you. I want to answer your questions. I'm happy to show you through my YouTube. I'm not going to watch the videos with you. I do want you to like and subscribe. And I'll put a link to my channel below as well for those. Do you like that? Like and subscribe. I've been practicing that. But I'll turn it over to Chris, who's been doing the chat, and I'm just happy to answer your questions. Likewise, reach out to me anytime. I'll put my email in the chat as well. Many of you already have it, but reach out to me. If you set up a channel, I'll go subscribe to yours, and you can subscribe to mine, and together we'll take over the universe. So,
Really appreciate it, James. Please, anybody jump in either on the chat or just unmute yourself and ask a question. One of the connections I really have with James is I'm kind of a quasi first gen for you. One side of my family has no background in college, and my dad went to college, but I didn't get that influence from him. So I really identify with just a lot of the babe in the woods aspect of being an undergrad and not knowing anything, and then seeing these videos and thinking, God, if I'd had just somebody kind of clue me into certain things, it really would have made a big difference. So that's a big difference that I think he's had. Anyway, so, and I'm a fan, and I try to watch a lot of the new things that he releases. And can you talk just a little bit about the schedule? Because James is really intentional about how he does things, and you'll see he has over 100 videos. It is over 100 right now. It's like 115 or something. It's a bunch.
sure.
And you don't get that there without being intentional about it. So could you just talk about that a minute?
So, for me, I started out, I put up my first video, and then I didn't put up another video for probably a couple of months, if I had to guess. It was that presentation video. It wasn't very good, but I got it up there. Then our program did a Zoom event, and we wanted to post the video somewhere, and I was like, oh, I can post to my YouTube account, and I posted that, and it got some views. And then I started really needing to put some stuff for my lectures as we got into the fall semester after the pandemic had started, and so I started uploading my lectures there. For that process, the first 6-7 months, maybe even year of my channel, it was really me holding on to the steering wheel as tight as I could, just trying to get videos out a day before the students were scheduled to watch them. Because like I had so much material I had to get through and get those recorded. And I didn't have the benefit of Zoom then. I was having to learn separate software. I use software called OMB for my video, not OMB. Oh, wait, what is this? Hold on, I'll click on it and it'll tell me what it's called in a minute. OBS, there we go. I use OBS for editing my stuff because I didn't have access to Zoom at that time. And, it was just holding on for dear life kind of thing. Now, once all that's done, all my lectures are up. I teach the same classes over and over. I can update the lectures as I see fit. And I'll be updating all of them in this coming spring and winter. But I try to get something out every week. I'm experimenting with doing 2 videos a week this week and last week. The first video is my main video that I put up every Wednesday morning. And then I'm also doing a 5-minute sociology series where I take a really basic idea like the sociological imagination and I talk about it for 5 minutes. It's been fun because it challenges me to take these really big ideas but put them in a 5-minute package. And those have only been going for 2 weeks, but they seemed like they're doing pretty well. In terms of recording the videos, this is a personal preference. I do all of my recording outside of my EKU hours. You have to figure out what's right for you, but I record over the weekends or I record on weeknights just because that works better for my life. I do kind of put, even though my lectures are hosted up there, I put a line between my work as a professor and what I'm doing on my YouTube channel, because I see what I do on my YouTube channel as a personal thing. And so, we'll leave that there for you to decide what your work-life balance looks like. Likewise, if you're just doing something that's strictly for your office, I think that would count totally for what you're doing as your job, and you could do that in your hours. But I don't want to get anybody fired. So
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Somebody chime in, unmute and ask a question.
James, I've got a question for you. This is Stephanie. So
Hey, Steph.
you put your videos up, your course lectures up, and then you just have them on your channel for anybody who's subscribed. So that's a little bit like open access, right? And so pretty much anybody could learn about sociology, about what you're teaching in your courses, and they just wouldn't get credit for it. Is that right?
That's correct. I see a high five from Kelly too. So yeah, I feel very much this is about open source education. I would say the bulk of my viewers for my intro sociology class are not at EKU. They're coming from around the world. They are people at other universities. I recently noticed there's somebody at SUNY up in New York that's actually using my rural sociology lectures in their class. And so it actually comes up that the SUNY website is routing it back to my channel. Brucknell has also done that. There's a couple of different schools that, sometimes it's just a, hey, go check this lecture out, and it'll like spike for a day or 3 and go back down. But like there's other cases where it's continued and it looks like they're actually using my lecture as part of their work, which, for some faculty, I could see them saying, heck no, I do not want that. That is not fair. For me as a person who wants education to be free, part of that sacrifice is me not getting paid for it. And I'm stoked by that, even elated. So I don't know. I think it's great though.
I love that. I love that a lot.
I have a question. On the subtitles on your YouTube videos, do you just take what it does, or do you go in and edit those?
That's a great question. So for the most part, I let it do the subtitles. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're not as great. I feel like a lot of that will vary by sound quality, maybe accent and things like that, but mine are pretty good. I looked at having actually a social work student help to clean up some of the language on some of my early lectures, and we really found that for the most part, they're fine. I do think for bigger channels that have the funding to do this, they write full scripts of their YouTube videos and they put those in. And I think that is the goal to set here, because we want to make these as accessible as we can to everyone. I also keep track too of the statistics of people using the captions on mine. And it's really interesting. Apparently my videos have been captioned in other countries as well. And I have no idea how good those translations are, but those seem to be getting used more than the ones in the United States. I don't know what to make of that. But yeah, what I would really love to see, Kelly, who writes amazing big grants that change the world, is for us to get something that could support closed captioning our videos and to make videos more accessible in general. Our accessibility team can do a lot of things, but their resources are very finite and limited over a very big group of students. I mean, we even had a situation recently where an open source textbook had to be printed in our department because we weren't able to get them to print this, 200-page textbook that was free. So
And they have had way more students signing up for services from them than pre-COVID.
Yep.
Hey, James, this is Karen.
Hey, Karen.
So explain to me, like, we have our Blackboard shell and there's 8 modules in there, one for each week for online. I'm talking about the eCampus courses.
Mhm.
So you open up your module 1. How are you displaying your videos in there? Is it embedded in a lecture? Is it like a lecture presentation and then there's a link in that lecture, or do you just have a line in there? How are you displaying it?
Yeah. So give me 30 seconds and I'll just log into my Blackboard and I'll show you. Because I'd be
Yeah, that's
interested to
great.
hear how that differs. Hold on just a sec here. Let's see. This will be about the time that EKU is like, hold on, you need to verify your password. I'm going to text you for the 47th time today. Let's see.
Yeah, that's true. You
yeah.
can't do laptop work without your phone right beside you anymore.
So much for work-life balance.
Yeah.
All right. I think you can see my Blackboard now, right? Thumbs
Yeah.
up, anybody? Good.
Yes.
So I have a course documents folder where I basically break my course down by sections. Kind of like you were talking about, I do like 4 sections for a course normally. And these are lumped together by topics, since the sociology lectures that kind of make sense. And so if you go into mine, like I'll have all the PowerPoints from the lectures that I've used available. So anyone can download them. They're all there. And then I'll just load the lectures. So like if I click on this link, it's actually going to take me back to my YouTube channel. I don't know if you can actually see that, but it's playing an
Yeah, I
ad
can.
naturally.
I
Yeah.
see.
But
Okay.
it'll basically take them back to the YouTube link. And then it also opens it as a new tab so they can come back here, take their quiz, and then they just go to the next video. And it seems to work well. Now, that's not the only way to do it. One of the reasons I didn't mention that I really ended up going with YouTube was I actually was uploading lectures to Blackboard and got a very stiffly worded email from IT that are like, hey, you're, pulling down the bandwidth for the entire university. And, you're costing us billions of dollars and you're not worth it. So, so you got to do something else. And that was actually about the time they sent out this email about all these different places that you could post stuff. And I was just like, I mean, YouTube is free. It's easy. It's what our students know. They all have YouTube accounts. They're comfortable with it. So it just worked out.
Okay. So do you track to see if everybody in class has access to your lecture? I mean, by their login?
You can turn that on. I don't necessarily watch the individual lectures. I actually watch some other stuff in my website or in the Blackboard, like they're, looking at the assignments and things like that. But if they have access to Blackboard and they have access to something that they can watch a video on, which is everything from their cell phone to a public computer to any computer, they'll have access to the lecture.
Okay.
They're all open to the world. And that's the other thing too, is that if they don't want to go through Blackboard, they just pull up Dr. Maple's YouTube channel and they just like, okay, I'm on lecture 1.3, and they can just go watch it that way. So, I mean, technically, if anything, it's taking Blackboard partly out of the mix too, that they can just keep my channel pulled up on their YouTube feed or as a tab on their phone and just watch the lectures as they go. In fact, I've had students tell me that that's what they do, is they just pull me up as a tab on their phone and they just leave it up for the semester. So,
Okay, great.
which
Thank
makes
you.
me feel important.
Well, you are important.
Thank you. What other questions can I help?
James,
John?
I have a sort of a copyright related question, I guess.
Yeah.
Just, I think about that a lot because I work with that. I talk about that a lot with my students in English 102. And then I've been working with Kelly lately over the last couple semesters on working for the OER textbook that we put together for English.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything special? So I guess I have 2 questions related to that. First of all, is there anything special that you need to do as far as marking your content in terms of for copyright purposes, for for having that that sort of open, keeping it open in the way that we mark things for OER textbooks? And then secondly, for your YouTube account, are you using a personal YouTube account or are you using the one associated with your EKU account? And could you speak a little bit to that?
Yep, let's answer those in reverse. So my YouTube account is my personal account. It's attached to my Gmail account, which is kind of annoying because I found out when you attach a YouTube account that's a studio account to a Gmail, you immediately take whatever name that you created as your YouTube studio becomes your Gmail. So my Gmail used to say James N. Maples, and now it's Dr. Maples. And so the rock climbers, I use that email for work with them a lot of times, and now they make fun of me and always call me Dr. Maples. And so, and it's frustrating, but it's small pains. But that is my personal account. And I think that's an important thing because the work that I put up there does not represent the university's interests. It doesn't have their approval in terms of like, me posting things. And one of the big things about that is we had a question in our department about our sociology Facebook page. And, are we actually as a department or major or program actually able to use a Facebook page? And it's not clear to me that we can. In fact, it was so muddy to me that I was just like, this is always going to be affiliated with my Gmail and not my EKU address. So that's a great first question. For the second one, YouTube has a commons license, as I recall, that makes the content available that you can watch it. You can choose to make videos private. I could make my entire channel private today if for some reason I chose to do that. Likewise, I could make it so that you had to have the links in Blackboard, kind of like Karen and I were talking about earlier, to watch the lectures. You wouldn't be able to see them in public. One of our other sociology adjuncts actually does that with her lectures. She has her YouTube channel. She adjuncts at another school, and it's like some of her videos from those classes are there, but her sociology EKU stuff is actually mostly hidden. So you can kind of choose what works for you. There is a setting in the YouTube videos when you are uploading them that I'll go with default on everything but this one, and that that users can sample your content. And I turned that one off just because I don't really know how people might sample my content. If it's creating some amazing, rap masterpiece from the 1980s, I'm all for that. But without knowing exactly how I'm going to be used, I just turned that option off. I don't think it's really ever going to be an issue or come up or anything like that. But yeah, that's the things that I do think about. Likewise too, when you set up a YouTube studio account, it actually has their copyright information in the lower left tab, so you can actually learn more about it. But I want to say it's Creative Commons license, but I can't be sure. So that's a great question. I do think for OER purposes though, as long as you have access to the channel and can make the video public and keep it that way, it's always going to work for OERs. What other questions can I answer or help with? Just hop in. This can also be that part of the lecture where I switch over to really bad magic tricks to get responses out of my students. That one where I pretend I can pull my thumb apart. I'm not going to do that because I have more respect for myself than that today, but
James, it's Karen again. I was
Hey.
thinking about a short PowerPoint that I have. It's how to teach the students to do a matrix when they're picking out which is the best policy options.
Yeah.
And it's got a tiny bit of math in it, and you put different numbers in different categories and stuff. So I could go to a Zoom meeting and pull up that PowerPoint and then explain it, almost like narrate it, and there would be like a little picture of me on the side explaining it. Is that how that would work? And then I would save that and upload it?
So with Zoom, you have some limitations. If you look at any of my videos, especially the most recent ones, that's me using, oh gosh, I've already forgotten the name of it again, OBHS, I don't remember what it is. OBS, that's right. I keep thinking OMB, which is the National Park Service review process that I'm going through on another study. And so, but yeah, OBS, I can change that so I have the camera on one side and the PowerPoint on another. With Zoom, your options are a little more limited. You can have your camera right here. Thanks for putting that in there, Kelly. There's a link in the description. But the comment box. See, I went into YouTube mode there. There's a link in the description below. But anyways, with Zoom, you're either going to have, like we see right now, if you have multiple people in the room, it's going to, again, be kind of exactly what you see. Or you could have your PowerPoint pulled up and be showing the PowerPoint. You're not going to be able to necessarily have as much control over that. It's really just one of those things, though, that it's going to be fine for getting content up there, you know, just getting started. But then once you maybe are ready to take it to the next notch, that's where you can start looking at other options like OBS, which gives you a lot of freedom to do like a full screen PowerPoint, which I've done presentations like that, or ones that it's just a picture of me talking.
Okay.
So,
Does that work for Macs too?
yes, OBS is open free source software. It's usable by all computers. I think even Linux can. So
Okay. All right.
same thing for Shotcut too. It's free, and it's really funny because a lot of these paid YouTubers are actually using OBS and Shotcut just because it's free, but it's also just really good. It's kind of like Python, you know, the community has built it and they continue to improve it. And so it's yeah, it's really great. It's great free software. Yep.
James, could you say a little bit about, so both for, and I'm asking this both in terms of for my own use, but also for classroom use, because I used to do a lot of video editing in some of my classes, especially when I could still rely on there being Windows Movie Maker on Windows machines and iMovie on Macs. And then after Movie Maker went away, it was really hard to find a replacement. And when that happened, I had looked at that time at Shotcut. It wasn't very user-friendly at the time. I imagine it has developed quite a bit, but you've mentioned both Shotcut and OBS, and both of them look like they're cross-platform, they're open source. What are some of the pros and cons, or the advantage? What are the different advantages? When and why would you use one over the other?
So OBS is only for recording the video, and Shotcut is only for editing. So they actually do serve two different purposes. But the great thing is that you can record in OBS and it records it in a particular format. And I honestly can't remember what it is, but it's something that can be opened by Windows Media Player. Maybe that's an AVI file. I don't really know for sure, but we can find out. But then Shotcut is radically improved, I think, from the old versions. Now you just open Shotcut, you open the video much like you would a Word document in Word, and you just drag it into the editing screen. And then from there, it's really just about editing, chopping it into pieces and so forth. I use it on a very low cursory level. But the great thing about that is there are people who teach free courses on YouTube on Shotcut. There are a bazillion videos out there on, you know, any issue that you can encounter in Shotcut. And generally speaking too, if like you do encounter an issue, I mean, just email me and I'll probably know the answer or can get you the answer. But yeah, I use it at a very low cursory, like, you know, very simple level. And it does so many cool things. But also thinking back to that idea of continual improvement, you know, I try to add in new editing things. I try to experiment with what I think my students will like. I noticed on the statistics that students tend to respond more to videos that have my PowerPoint lectures embedded in them. So you'll see on my more recent videos that I have like a short PowerPoint slide off to one side and then the picture of me. And the students tend to watch those more and engage in them for a longer time. For some reason, when it's just me talking, it doesn't hold as much attention.
How do you handle
Thanks.
comments on YouTube? Do you, you said you leave them on, but early when we're starting, should we keep them off for a while, or is it better to keep them on? How do you handle it?
I left them off for a very long time, actually, because I was actually very concerned what people might say. And then I hit a point in my career where I suddenly just didn't care what people had to say anymore. I don't know if the pandemic caused that or what exactly, but I've just decided I am who I am. Not to sound like Popeye there, but I am who I am, and that's all there is to it. I've had 3 rude comments out of hundreds, and they weren't even like especially rude. There was one person that like put up that they were like, this Dr. Maples guy really creeps me out and I'm fascinated by that. And I'm like, okay, you're a serial killer. I'm blocking you from the channel. You know, made sure it like wasn't like a student account or anything like that, because it wasn't a name that was in my roster. It was a different name. And then I had a social worker who left me a pretty rude comment about like maybe I knew what I was talking about about can sociology majors become social workers, but I happen to know for a fact that I worked with some amazing experts to help me make that video. And so I just kind of was just like, well, that's cool. Like, what feedback do you have? And, crickets in the room. Now I did have a situation where I had to turn off comments for a video because of bots. Bots are a thing. Bots post fake comments. I have a video on HIV, the history of HIV, how it's transmitted when I talk about social epidemiology. And there is an account, and I won't say them since we're recording, I won't say the name, but it's basically a YouTube account that spreads false information about curing HIV. And every 2 or 3 days, I would get like 5 or 6 bot responses, different pictures, different accounts, same quote, this person cured my HIV. Here's the link to their website. And I was just like, we got to put a stop on that. So that video, I think, has comments moderated. I don't have any other students that have like responded or commented on it or anything like that. But that's really the only situations. It can't hurt to just moderate the comments. You have different levels of comments. You can turn them all off. You can set them so that like everything posts and there's nothing about it. And then there's different levels of moderation in there. You can do a really strenuous filter that probably picks up, lots of things like strong language or false links or something like that. And then there's like a weaker moderation filter. And I haven't experienced the difference between those moderation filters. For that one video, everything gets moderated, and everything else, they just, it goes to the YouTube channel. And then I get an email anytime someone posts a comment. And if there's something objectionable, I'll just go in and delete it. But I mean, it's super, super, super rare. What I instead get is, comments from folks around the world saying, thank you for telling me what a W is, because this random secretary at my school said it was going to ruin my life. And I'm like, been there, done that. I know what you're talking about. So. What other questions can I answer? What other comments can I address? So I put a link to my YouTube channel, like and subscribe, but do seriously feel free to share those videos with anyone. There's a lot of videos in there that are about things that address all of our students' issues, like the withdrawal videos, medical withdrawals, but also advising questions. I've got a couple of videos up basically telling students, hey, your advisor is probably bad at their job. If you're in one of these majors where you're getting advised by a professor, you need to be asking these questions so they don't delay your graduation. And so, feel free to share those videos with your students. And likewise, if you ever have an idea for a video that you don't want to do, but you'd like me to do, just let me know. Leave a comment or send me an email or anything. I'm happy to help. And if you do get a YouTube channel up, subscribe to me and let me know, and I'll subscribe to you, and we'll change the world. I don't know if we'll change the world, but we'll try. We might just get like 10% off at Lee's Chicken or something. I don't know. So.
Thank you so much today. And you never know what an influencer can get. You may get half price socks or something. But
I love to
this.
go for the free chicken. I think that would be great. I love your Lee's Chicken.
I'm more preferential to the free chicken too. But I love this idea of cross-pollination. We have experts right here. And so, share your expertise to the extent you feel comfortable. Let me know if I can help. I don't have Dr. Maples' level of like just discipline with putting these out, but I know how to make YouTube work for you all. If you need help, just ping me. I'm glad to take a little time and get you through any rough spots, especially after that first time though. You'll be off to the races.
Yeah. Once you get started, it's all about small incremental improvements, just get your first video up and then just sort of get that self-loathing of like, okay, I can do better out, and then find little things that you can do better. And there's tons of people up there that have YouTube channels solely about creating YouTube channels. In fact, that's a whole, $1 million industry. There's people that make their entire careers off telling you how to create a YouTube channel. And some of them are amazing and you can learn a ton from them. And some of them are, little tidbits of information here and there. But you can still get a lot of information. And likewise, ask your students what they want. Our students are very much forthcoming about, what we can do to help them if we just ask. So.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for attending today. It's really, really great session. I learned some things, so I appreciate your time, James. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks all. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Let me know if I can help.